Greetings and salutations, this is Jarsz, the biggest YouTuber ever! And good morning, Jarsholes! Welcome to a special Sunday edition of the Daily Jarsz for the 19th of November 2023. And today marks 1 month of the Daily Jarsz. Happy birthday to me! Members, please put some corgis in the chat to celebrate. Woohoo! And thanks to those who chose to watch me and Rachi rather than watch FDFE argue with a silly old drunk. A special shout out to those who clicked subscribe since Friday. Welcome to the world of Jarsz. I hope you enjoy the show. And today we do something different. If you've been following the likes of FDFE and MC Toon and various Flurf Discord servers, you'll be aware of Rachi 50. She will be my guest today, and we'll go through a few things about her journey and where she is now. But before I bring her on, I want to thank my YouTube members. Thank you once again for all that you do for me, and thanks for being part of the huge Jarsz movement. And thanks again to Siggy Sigwald and all the new members this week. I'm still rethinking how I present them, so hopefully I can sort that out soon. Meanwhile, let me recognise the members who joined last week: Armageddon's Fire, Peter Harrington, Siggy Sigwald himself, Professor Phil Bell, who's over on FE, Phil de Orc, Zeo Gold, what a cool name, A Madman, Clarence AS2, Rich 901, Tinker Phil, Igor, Mr. Unite for the Chill Wind, Edison Carter, Facty, Dart, Peter Noddle, Didge Ridu, Dr. Nimrod, Lady Moonweb, Paul's Heart Attack Support, and Doc C. Just before I bring on Rachi, Mr. 42 will be joining me tomorrow to have my fortnightly look at Level Earth Observer, so watch out for that. Now, without further ado, and hopefully without technical problems because I'm getting an error message, it's Rachi. How are you, Rachi? Can you hear me? And you're on mute.
Hello. Yes, I'm fine. Can you hear me?
Yes. Awesome. We've got you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Is there any echo?
A little bit of echo. Yeah.
1 second.
Have you got
I might be able to
headphones you can put in?
Yeah, I'm wearing headphones. 1 second.
Maybe you got the stream on. It's only a little echo, so it's probably not too distracting. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Great. So we'll just go on, I think. So that we get a good introduction, what's the Rachi story? Where are you from? What's your fields of interest and expertise, and so on?
I'm from England. Field of expertise, none. I'm interested in pretty much everything, really.
All right. That's a good way to be.
Yeah, definitely.
I thought a good introduction, I might show one of your videos, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Well, let me just get that up. Here we go. I'm going to show this one.
To it, isn't there? There's more that can get closer to changing the way we live than chatting about the land that we stand on, you know.
Yeah. Just that picture you showed before should be enough for anyone to say, uh-oh.
I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but you have a hole in your head. Your hair's going behind the light.
Uh-oh.
Never mind, it's just exposure. The sun's in front of this tree.
Uh-oh.
And it's in front of these trees too.
Uh-oh.
Wonder why they haven't set on fire. And just look at that hot spot on their fingers.
Uh-oh.
And if the sun was really in the clouds, as apparently observed, then don't you think the clouds would have evaporated?
Uh-oh.
Like seriously, you cannot believe that the sun is in the clouds because the clouds would have evaporated. Yet we observe that. Just because we observe something doesn't necessarily make it true.
Uh-oh.
That's it, I think. Yep. So that's a interesting video, given that for the past 3-4 years, you've basically presented. Oops, hang on. Got to turn this off. You probably didn't get that, but I was getting in my ears. You presented as a flat earther, basically. So I'd like to hear a bit about that journey. What got you into that in the first place?
Well, I came across a video talking about gravity being bendy space-time, and I had incredulity that you can't bend space and time. And then I started to think, well, why do things fall? And then like I came up with, because I was like Googling the density of things, and I came up with less dense rises and more dense falls. So then I typed in the YouTube search bar, gravity is just density, and then I found Eric Debay and then his 200 proofs.
And that's what got you into it?
Yeah, pretty much. And then I started questioning things, and then came across people like FTFE and Sleeping Warrior, and yeah, they basically started from there.
And based on that video that we just played, you're, I'd say you're more on the globe side than the flat Earth side. Where would you consider yourself at the moment?
Yeah, I'd say I'm on the globe side now, because like the evidence points more towards a globe than to flat Earth.
That's great to hear, because as you said, the evidence points to it. You've got to go with the evidence. So yeah, okay, that was a question I asked. What was the deal with Anthony Riley, or Sleeping Dumbass, as many of us like to think of him? You seem to have a close relationship with him there for a while. I'm not implying anything. I'm just saying that it was almost as if he was telling you what to think, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No, he was just really helpful, and he helped me to, like, he was trying to tell me his ways of thinking things, and you know, he helped me out with some of the trolls and helped me to understand flat Earth a bit more. And yeah, it was just like always there when I had questions and that, and he was just always very kind and helped me, like I said, with the trolls and things, because obviously he deals with a lot of trolls and that. So
yeah, so there are bad people no matter what they think, and that's we all suffer from that, unfortunately. So it's interesting that Sleeping Warrior is now on Flatzoid's live stream a lot. What do you think of Flatzoid?
I actually like Flatzoid. I think he's a great guy, and I do like his content, and I like watching him. I don't always agree with him, and especially now, obviously, now I'm more the globe side, like, and I see more as a globe. There are, I think, times that I disagree with him, but overall, yeah, I like his content and I like watching his streams.
Yeah, because that video I play was basically you debunking him, really, because he was the one saying that the sun was in the clouds, and you were saying, well, no, you've got a hole in your head, the sun's poking through, and that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, like, and if the sun's in the clouds, then it'll evaporate the clouds and that. Like, just because like you like somebody or you agree with somebody on some points and things like that, don't mean that you can't disagree with them on other things. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, we wouldn't have a society without that.
Definitely.
Still got a little bit of an echo, but that's all right. It's not too bad. No one seems to be complaining about it. So that's good. I just wanted to run a few other flirts past you just to sort of hear what you think about them. What do you think of Nathan Oakley?
Well, Nathan Oakley on his show is different to speaking to him personally offline. Like, he's all right. Like, he's speaking to him offline when I've spoke to him. Like, he's a nice guy, and he explains things, and then yeah, I can't really say nothing bad about him like that, because you know, he's always been all right with me offline, but like when we've spoke offline, but he was all right and things. But yeah, online is a bit different.
You could say that again. Yeah, Rachi said a similar thing when I spoke to him about that. Did you meet Nathan Oakley in person?
No, I just spoke to him like on Skype.
Right. Okay. What about someone like Austin Whitsitt? What do you think of him?
I like Austin Whitsitt. I think yeah, he does his research, but he doesn't really understand things all the time and takes his own conclusions, as sometimes I've done as well, and other people do. But yeah, overall, I think he's an all right guy. Yeah, I like him.
Yeah, that's a common trait. People look at things that they don't understand, assume they understand it, and then draw these conclusions from it. And that's where this whole thing comes from, really. At least that's the way it feels. And then they challenge people who actually are experts on it, like Dr. Phil Bell, for example, who's put things on the moon. You think he'd know something about physics. given he's done that, and PhD Tony and people like that, they've spent years studying the subject, and yet someone who's read an article suddenly thinks they know everything about it, and that's always bizarre to me. So
yeah, well, I've done that myself as well, haven't I, with PhD Tony and things. But yeah, like you read something and you study the topic a little bit, but sometimes you don't get past the surface level, and you think you know it when you don't. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with really questioning people and questioning experts and things. I mean, I think you should be able to question them to learn, really, if anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, especially if, like Dr. Phil Bell, you're an educator, that's kind of the job, isn't it? I see Critical Think is complaining he doesn't have a spanner, and he should. So I will just do that. Excuse me, Rachie, just 1 minute. There he is. He's got his spanner. Yes, I can guarantee you both Dr. Phil, Professor Phil and PhD Tony at some point did exactly the same thing. They questioned the things that they were being told. That's the academic process. When you go to university, you're taught how to think, basically, and figure out things for yourself, which is why it's always a bit gets you back up when people who haven't been to university say that, that you're just indoctrinated at university. No, if you were indoctrinated at university, nothing would work. You just do what they tell you to do, but you don't do that. They tell you how to figure it out for yourself, and then you figure it out, and that way you get better marks in your exam because you understand what it is you're talking about. It always, as someone who's been through that sort of education, it always rolls to me a bit that people are a bit like that, but they don't know any better, do they?
No, and like I said, I can understand people questioning them because I did it myself, but at the same time, I couldn't understand why they'd get angry, but now I can understand why they get angry, because it's like, well, I've done the university, I've done this, I've done that, I do this as a job, and you're questioning me. Who are you to question me? And I can understand that point of view as well now. Like, but at the time I couldn't. I was like, why are you getting angry? Like, I'm only asking you questions. But I can understand it now. Yeah.
Like I said, it's all okay to question, and people like Professor Bell in particular, being an educator, he wants people to question him, because that's how he educates. He helps people to understand things, and how they can test it for themselves. But when you're sorry, you go.
I was going to say, I think it's the way you go about it as well. Like I was saying that PhD Tony and people was wrong, but really it was me that was wrong. But when you think, like I says, when you only have like a surface level, or you read something and you think you know it, then you're like, well, you're wrong based on this, but because you haven't got a full in-depth understanding of it, you're the one that's actually wrong, but you don't see that because you only scratch the surface. Yeah,
that's Dunning-Kruger, isn't it? I mean, you're reading articles designed to be a communication to people who have spent years studying things, and you don't have that. So you look at it from a position of, well, I don't want to say ignorance, but that's really the right word. It's not a negative connotation. It just means you don't know. That's all that means. But yeah, every time I learn something, I learn how much I don't know, if you know what I mean. And I don't really see that with a lot of flat earthers. They seem to think that they know everything to start with. That's where they assume they start, and they go from there. That's my impression anyway. What do you think?
Yeah, well, you think you know it once you scratch the surface level. But again, like, that's another thing that got me questioning, like, how can all these experts be wrong? And do you really think you're smarter than all these people, more intelligent than all these people who actually do it for work, or have actually studied it? Do you really think that you're more intelligent than them, or are you the one that's wrong? And that's what got me to think, actually, yeah, I probably am the one that's wrong, because all these people, I don't think that I'm more intelligent than, so therefore it's probably me that's wrong.
Yeah, experts can be wrong. That's the beauty of science. It's always trying to improve its understanding of the world around us. But someone who studies something for 30 years is far more likely to have an idea of what's going on than someone who's looked at it for 5 minutes. I hope you agree with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You mentioned Eric Debay earlier. What do you think of him?
Well, I've only really spoke to him back and forwards in comments, but I haven't really spoke to him that much. I think he's okay, but again, there's a lot of misunderstandings and things that are not being understood. So I don't know, it's a hard one, because because he's got so many subscribers, and that's who most the flat earthers find to begin with. He's the one that puts these misunderstandings as well in people's heads, and that if I hadn't come across him because of the bendy space-time and gravity just being density, would I have even questioned the shape of the Earth? Probably not.
So, I mean, you've probably seen the debunks of the 200 proofs, which you said you read, and I hope you agree that there's probably 30 at most, and they're not very good arguments. What do you think of them now that you have this extra knowledge that you didn't have 3-4 years ago?
Well, I saw somebody debunking them. I can't remember his name now, but he didn't get through them all. But yeah, most of them just a lot of them are repetitive, or just seeing too far. But that's when I didn't understand refraction and geometry and perspective and things. And now it's just once you understand that, you understand why it's possible on a globe.
Yeah, that's the thing. From everything I've seen, everything that Flat Earther puts forward as a Flat Earth proof is either globe bashing, so therefore it's not a Flat Earth proof, or it's a misunderstood or misrepresented globe evidence that they're actually proving the globe most of the time. They just choose to interpret it as a Flat Earth proof, which I find, well, hilarious for a start, but fascinating that people would do that they're so locked into a particular mindset, and they don't let but I've been trained in science, of course. I let the evidence tell me what to think, whereas people who haven't been in that kind of area tend not to do it that way.
Yeah, and it's hold on, I've lost my train of thought.
I bored you to lose your train of thought.
I always do this to quite a lot. I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, about the FE evidence, there isn't really any flat Earth evidence, really. Like you said, it's the misunderstandings of the globe, and it's there is no FE evidence. I think it's evident. It's even when you show something on a flat surface being obstructed bottom up, that can be shown on a globe as well. So it doesn't point to flat Earth evidence, because if anything, it's not evidence for either. Because if it can be shown on both, then it's not evidence for either one.
Excellent.
But they take that as evidence just for flat Earth, but it's not.
Yeah,
and then this whole sextant argument with the horizontal baseline, I just find that silly. Because obviously you can have a tangent and that, and the black swan. I don't agree with any of them. I don't think it's a flat Earth evidence at all.
Yeah, and only flat earthers think it's flat Earth evidence, and that's usually a red flag. What about Level Earth Observer? You seen much of him?
Yeah, I've watched a few of his videos, and I did make a video for him before in the past, but it was about the cranes. But yeah, he's mostly just saying pantomime over and over again, isn't he? It's basically incredulity, isn't it? He watches the videos and then he just can't believe that it's real, and then he tries to poke holes in them. But then I've watched Where's Wally's responses to him as well, and he always has good rebuttals as well to his videos. There
you go. Wally, you got a fan in Rachi. Well, he's in the chat right now, by the way. I don't know if you can see it or not. And what about CC? He's a channel favourite.
Oh, CC, bless him. I like him, but yeah, he's a bit out there, isn't he?
I'm starting to worry about him, to be honest. He seems to be getting crazier and crazier. He was talking about shooting the moon and crazy things.
Yeah, I do like listening to him, but yeah, he's not really involved in the flat Earth movement that much. He does his own little thing, doesn't he? But yeah, he is a bit out there, and it's funny watching him sometimes. But yeah, he seems a nice guy.
He's got some magnificent hair too.
He has, yeah.
Makes me jealous. And the last one I wanted to ask you about is Kyle Adams. Have you come across him too much?
I haven't really spoke to him for probably a year or more now, but I spoke to him a couple of times in chats. Again, full of misunderstandings. He seems like a nice bloke, but and he does like to keep the peace more. He isn't so much of because a lot of flat earthers can actually be a bit like the globe earthers. They're a bit, on each other's backs kind of thing, like a bit harsh. But he seems more of one of a pleasant flat earther, and yeah, it's just full of misunderstandings as well, to be honest.
Yeah, he never seems to have an open mind, does he? He talks about everyone else needs to have an open mind. That basically means everyone else needs to come around to his point of view. So which to me is a dishonest position. But I think you're right. He probably got his heart in the right place. He's just dogmatic about the way he approaches things. And I'm just thinking,
it's a bias, isn't it?
A bias,
I
yes.
think, yeah.
Yeah, and given that FDFE is talking to Ross Thatcher at the moment, what do you think of Flat Earth Aussie Jesus, or Iron Horses for some reason he calls himself today?
I don't think I ever spoke to him, but is that the one that says that the Grand Canyon was dug out by giants and
Yes.
it was filled with helium for the moon?
Yes.
Yeah, he's out there, very, very much out there. But no, I've never really had a conversation with him or anything, so I can't really say much about him other than his ideas are out there.
I tried to have a conversation with him, but he just, at the end, he said, I don't talk to fake people, and then he blocked me. It was just weird. And he lives 2 hours from me. I often thought of going down and knock on his door and just say, "G'day, it's Hugh Jarsz," and see how he reacts. I'd like to have a bit with him, actually.
You should record that.
Oh, yeah. Visiting a madman. So that's the flirts. What's on the Debunkers side? Who are your favourite debunkers to watch? You mentioned Where's Wally?
Yeah, I like watching Where's Wally. I do watch Simon Dan, but I wish he'd do more experiments than that. Like, he's more of an explanation type of guy. FTFE I watch sometimes. I didn't watch him for quite a while because we had a little falling out. But yeah, I watch him now again. I'm trying to think now.
MC Toon?
Yeah, MC Toon, Mr. 42. I watch them as well. I was subscribed to you, but YouTube unsubscribed me at some point. So I haven't seen none of your videos. I thought you'd stopped uploading.
I did for a while because life was just too busy. So now I'm back on doing a daily show. So feel free to join in anytime. Hopefully you're resubscribed again.
Yep, I've resubscribed again.
Thank you for that.
And Dave McKeegan as well. He does great videos as well. Very in-depth as well.
Yes, in-depth is the word for him. He's brilliant, isn't he? He's going to be on the show soon. So we were having a chat yesterday about that. So, yeah, what was I going to say? Oh, yes, yes. So if to people in the chat and watching in general, if you're, please check your subscription to Hugh Jarsz. I think if you're here, you probably are okay, but YouTube has been deleting subscriptions without people's permissions for some reason. It's not just my channel. A lot of channels are going through this at the moment. I'm not sure why it's happening or why they would even want to. It seems counterproductive to me, to their product, which is getting people to share videos. So, yeah, it seems odd. So I wanted to also, just let me set this up. Oh, hang on, that's not what I wanted to do. No, that's still not working the way I want it to. We'll just do it that way. I wanted to, back in 2020, which seems like a hell of a long time ago, we had a bit of a Discord discussion. And I asked you to give me some questions you'd like answered. And then we were going to have a live stream to go through it. And for various reasons, we never got around to it. But I thought we might get back to the questions today, now that, as you said yourself, you've got a greater knowledge of things. And maybe you could even answer your own questions. And we'll see how we go, eh?
I don't even remember that, to be honest. But yeah, we'll give it a go.
All right. So these questions, for some reason, because I haven't I just realised why it's not working, because you've got to, on StreamYards, you've got to upload the presentation and then it'll present. But I'll just have to do it this way, because if I go to presentation mode, it wipes out my StreamYard screen and I can't see what's going on. But that's my problem, it's not anyone else's. So these are actually cut and paste from the questions as you type them. So I'm representing your words accurately, even though you don't remember. So someone told me we go at constant speed so we don't feel it. Fine with that, except someone said that we change acceleration around the sun depending where we are on the elliptical orbit. So why can't we feel that change of speed acceleration? Do you want to have a crack at answering this before I get into it?
I think that was on about the perihelion and the aphelion. So like you go faster when you're closer to the sun and slower further away, I think it is. And now I'd just say that it isn't a big enough change to feel.
Yep, that's basically what I was going to say. So I came up with this slide, some orbital facts. So the eccentricity of the Earth's orbit, even though it's elliptical, it's not very elliptical. It's almost spherical. 0.01671 is the eccentricity, which the closer to zero you are, the closer to a circle you are. The distance to the sun at aphelion, which occurs in July, is 1.521 million kilometres, or 94.5 million miles for those using the old money. The speed at aphelion is 29.29 kilometres a second. Distance to the sun at perihelion, which is the other extreme in January, is 147.1 million kilometres, or 91.4 million miles. So that's a difference of about, 5 million kilometres, 3 million miles. Speed at perihelion is 30.29, so that's a difference of 1 kilometre a second in the speed. So there's not a lot of difference. And then it takes 6 months between aphelion and perihelion. So if you divide that, that gets down to 0.0054 kilometres a second per day acceleration, which is 5.4 centimetres a day for the entire planet. So that's not a lot of acceleration. So that's why you don't feel it. It's just too small to feel.
Yep. So that was a misunderstanding that I had back then as well.
Yeah, I'm doing this more for other people who might have been in your position right now, so that they can understand that these might be scary numbers, but they also show that what you're concerned about isn't really a concern. Not you, but the people who are in the position you were back in 2020. Your second question, if the ISS is orbiting Earth with gravity 10% less than Earth, let's just say 8 meters per second squared to make it easier then, the ISS should be going faster and faster, just like if you drop something from a high elevation on Earth. So why don't they go faster and faster and just instead travel a constant speed? You want to have a crack at that?
Yeah, a very, very bad misunderstanding there. I was used to think that it would just basically keep accelerating and accelerating, so why isn't it going faster and faster? But obviously, because it's doing an orbit, you know, you've got the centrifugal force and the centripetal force, and they balance out, and it's just going a constant speed. So none of that accelerate. Obviously, because like it's free falling as well, and then it's missing the Earth. So they say like, so, you know, it's not like how I was imagining it. Basically, like when you drop something and it accelerates faster and faster, like. So yeah.
Well, it is accelerating. It's just accelerating in more than one direction, which cancel each other out.
Yeah, like the centrifugal and the centrifugal. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, in fact, I wasn't quite sure what you meant by this question, but now you've explained it a little bit more. I understand better. But yeah, and the 8 meters, that's simply because you're further away from the center of the Earth. So it was really irrelevant to what you're talking about, other than it determines what your orbital speed will be at any given height. So yeah, you pretty much figured it out all by yourself, so that's great. The third question, why does Polaris not seem to rotate no matter where you are on the Earth like the other stars? Well, first let me say, here in the Southern Hemisphere in Australia, you can't see Polaris. So the no matter where you are on Earth bit, that's obviously wrong in the start.
Yeah, that's me as well, not understanding the axis is but pointed to Polaris. So obviously if you're spinning around on an axis and that's straight above the axis of rotation, then it's not going to really rotate. Although apparently it does really rotate a little bit, like a bit of movement, but not like the other stars, basically. It's another gross misunderstanding.
Yeah, I've got this video to show that. This is from a channel called Czar. Please go and subscribe to Czar. He's only got 372 subscribers. Let's see if we can get him up to 500 or something. I believe this star here is Polaris. And so we're going to see the stars rotating around that, and then they're going to go to star trails, and you'll see that Polaris actually moves from that point. It's not clear when you don't have the star trails, but when the star trails come in, you can see that it's also becoming a line rather than, and it's not at the center, is it? Because the center is actually there rather than over here where Polaris is. So that's the bit. This is, I'm not sure what this is supposed to show, but that's the bit I wanted to show you. So we'll stop there. Can you explain how space-time bends to cause, this is the thing you were mentioning earlier, to cause gravity acceleration. How can space and time bend? And if that's 4D, then are we 4D? The answer to that is correct. Yes, it is. We are, because we are 3D and have time, move through time. So technically we're 4D, right? Yes, that's correct. But this bit, can you explain how space-time bends to cause gravity acceleration? The answer is we don't really know. We just know that it does. We can measure that it does.
Yeah, I still have some issues with that. I try and put my incredulity aside of that though, and try to think of it in different ways. And obviously, space must be a physical thing, because you wouldn't be able to move forwards and backwards if space wasn't there. Do you know what I mean? You'd be stuck in one place, but you need space to be able to move. So why could it not be non-Euclidean as well? So I try and find a way around that, but I'm still a bit iffy with it.
Yeah, Euclidean's about planar geometry, whereas non-Euclidean's about a spherical. So, but yeah, space is much more than that. But it's not really something that anyone really needs to figure out. Like I said, we don't fully know how gravity works. We just have a theory that fits the facts. One day someone's going to be greater than Einstein and figure that out, and we'll probably have gravity drives and go to the stars and things like that. But we haven't got there yet. We just know we can measure that it does bend space and time. Editing experiment, I think you know these experiments, Cavendish experiments, Schehelian, all those sort of things. We just don't know why to the right extent. Einstein gave us a lot of insights, but we haven't quite got there, I think.
Yeah, well, if maths works for it, doesn't it? So the maths for the warping and bending of space-time works. So it's like, in a sense, it must do that, but it's still hard to try and get your head around how and why it can warp. Do you know what I mean? I understand what Einstein was saying, but at the same time, it's still like an incredulity problem that I have with it.
Well, to me, it's a bit like a car. You can jump in your car and you can go somewhere in it. You don't know how the car works necessarily. It's the same with gravity. We don't know how it works. We just know it does because we can use it. But we're still working out what's in that engine, I guess. Next question. This is the second last one. If the reason boats disappear bottom first is because of a curve, why can't we go up higher and see that the boat over the curve? Like when we go up higher, that boat still looks like it's on level water, and by level I mean horizontal. A bit of Bev influence there, I presume.
No, it was my only definition of level. That's the only definition of level that I knew. That level was horizontal. I actually did a video for FTFA. I went through my dictionary and thesaurus, and it never said, about level being curved. It was always level horizontal. And being FTFA had a back and forth about that as well. But obviously there are other definitions depending on the context that you're using. And yeah, it was more of a, I didn't understand the geometry and how you are still seeing over the curve, because I expected the horizon, if it was the curve, to still be that place. So the horizon wouldn't move as you gained in elevation. But obviously that was me misunderstanding geometry and how things work.
Sounds like you were thinking the horizon was a physical place. It's just the limit of your ability to see on a spherical object, really.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought, that it was like a physical place, like a physical curve, and therefore it would have to stay where it is while you rose up, kind of thing.
Well, I've got a video to illustrate that. It's not a boat going over the horizon. Hang on, where is it? This one. But it's the drone that sees the sunset twice, which is analogous, I believe. There's a chat in the second best bomb. Bob, member for 19 months. Rachie is an actual nice flurf. Would you call yourself a flurf? I think you call yourself nice.
I don't really call myself a flurf anymore, but it's taking time to get out of the mindset of a flat earther, because I still, it's not just like a quick switch where, okay, now I'm a glober and now it's a globe. Like, if somebody still called me a flurf now, I'd kind of still accept it, because even though I'd say no, I'm a glober, or I'm more towards the globe, and that, it's like I've been called one for that long. It's almost like a natural. Okay,
it's part of the culture.
Yeah.
So let's just watch this just to prove the point. I'm not sure where this is. Again, Dave Peller. He's got 55 subscribers. Let's see if we can get a few more for him. As the sun go down, drone goes up from 100 foot to 400 foot, so 300 foot change. We see the sun again. So that's what you were saying about seeing the boat over the horizon. Hang on, how do I get it back? Stop. There we go. And back to the presentation. Yeah, so I think that video is essentially the same thing what you're talking about in this question. And your last question, how can sun and moon be above the horizon and lunar eclipse happen?
Yep, the impossible eclipse. I thought that was obviously impossible. They named it the impossible eclipse. And how can the Earth be in the way if the sun and the moon is above the horizon? But obviously that was, again, me not understanding refraction, and that actually the sun is below the horizon. It just looks like it's above the horizon due to refraction. And
I can never pronounce it. The Selenian eclipse, is that the way they pronounce it? I can't remember. But that eclipse, I think it's funny that flat earthers say that eclipse only because it's where the moon rises eclipsed. But it happens every full moon. You see the sun, the full moon, and the sun in the sky at the same time, just for a few seconds. But and that's due to refraction, as you said. So yeah, it's funny that they focus on the eclipse. The eclipse is irrelevant to it. It's the fact that it's a full moon, because that's when the moon, sun, and Earth line up. It doesn't have to be an eclipse. That means it's if there's an eclipse, the moon is more or less level with the orbital plane of the solar system. But it can happen at other times when it's 5 degrees either side of that as well, and you get the same effect. So I find it funny they focus in on that, on the eclipse side of it, when that's irrelevant.
Well, I think it's mainly just because, like, the Earth's meant to be in the way of the sun and the moon, isn't it, to cause the eclipse? But because obviously the sun's up, it doesn't look like the Earth is in the way because the sun's in the sky. But yeah, it's refraction, isn't it?
Just for a few seconds, and that's the amount the refraction gives it. So if it was hours, you might have a point, but if it's a few seconds, then it's easily explained by refraction. All right, so that's the questions I had for you, Rachie. Is there anything else you'd like to offer? And then we'll get into memes, because I have a meme roundup each time I have a show.
No, I don't think so.
All right, I just want to give you the chance if you wanted to say something. All right, let's have a look at memes roundup. So this meme's in relation to the theory that there isn't any jet fuel on planes; they just go all electric. Yes, they're misinterpreting what they're seeing here, I think, because there's the fuel tanks there. They just didn't put a point to it. That's all. And there's fuel tanks underneath here as well.
I haven't even heard of this one.
Yeah. They think,
I mean,
they're electric.
you can see them literally filling the plane with a hose. So. Yep.
My dad was an airline executive, so I've been around planes for a long time. I've seen it happen many, many times. Wolfie 6020 will tell you, as a pilot, he has to fill up his plane, otherwise it crashes. So, and it hasn't crashed yet because he fills it up. Anyway, just one of those ridiculous just an incredulity thing. How could you possibly? They see a tanker truck of fuel. How can you fit 13 of those into a plane? That's what they don't understand. But they're not visualizing the volume properly. That's the problem. So this is about Airy's failure. And Airy's failure was about proving Earth's motion Sorry, no, it wasn't about that. It was to confirm the aether theory, but it failed to do so. So it proved the aether wasn't a thing. But flat earthers use it to prove that the Earth doesn't move. And despite this debunking that, I saw this yesterday. A flat earther put this up as proof that the Earth doesn't move. He didn't even read it. I find that hilarious.
Well, I'm a bit iffy with the aether. I don't know whether it exists or not, but they say that they failed to detect the motion, didn't they, of the Earth? But it's not that. It's they failed to detect the aether, the movement through the aether.
Yeah. And the next one. So this is another mind-boggling one. For some reason, they think the Earth contains a giant magnet. They don't understand how it's generated. And they're saying the Earth's core is a temperature of 9392 degrees Fahrenheit. but iron loses magnetic properties at 1418 Fahrenheit and nickel at 669 Fahrenheit. First of all, that temperature is probably the center of the Earth, not the crust. The magnetic field is generated within about 50 kilometers of the crust, I believe. If PhD Tony was here, he could confirm that for me. So it's nowhere near all that heat source. And second of all, that's not how it works. It's not a big magnet in the middle of the Earth. They
say it's past the Curie point down there, but it's something to do with the movement of the I forgot the name of it now, but it's something to do with the movement that actually causes the magnetic field.
So they didn't find out, didn't do their own research and figure out what it was in the first place, assumed it was something else, and then suddenly they've debunked it. That's why we find it hilarious. I hope you appreciate that.
Yeah, it's the misunderstanding, isn't it? I mean, I can't really laugh at anything like that because I've had the same misunderstandings. So,
well, like I said earlier, we all have at some point, but then we figured it out, and then we can understand it and prove it for ourselves. So, and I always find this a bit odd, especially when I see this last one. I can see a curve there. You can see the curvature at any height, because seeing is just light hitting your eyes. Whether or not your brain interprets it as a curve is another matter, and you need enough of it to be able to do that. You're not going to get that from sea level, but the higher up you go, the more you're going to get it. And this very photo in this meme, to me, that looks curved to me. And this one looks curved too. And if you do the compression test, and there's an example of that coming up, you'll see that curve is much more accentuated. I love it when they debunk themselves.
Well, they look flat to me, but yeah, when you, like you say, when you compress it, you can see the curve then, can't you?
Yeah, like I said, it's a perception problem. It's not a seeing problem because the light hits your eyes anyway. What your brain does with it, that's the problem. And especially if you're biased, your brain's probably going to give you the wrong answer.
Yep, definitely.
And I think this is a good point. Flat earthers say, oh, gravity doesn't exist because gravity destroys flat Earth. But if you're going to say, okay, well, gravity doesn't exist, you've got to say what keeps you down. And they give you a relative density disequilibrium. I can't even say it now. But that's, the buoyancy formula includes gravity.
Yeah, well, they don't claim that buoyancy really is like RDD. RDD is just the density of the object relative to the medium, and that determines its direction. But that doesn't explain why that direction, and it doesn't work in free fall. So it's not a cause. You can't say that it's a cause in of itself, otherwise it would work in free fall. And not only that, you still need the 9.81 meters per second squared for any of the calculations to work, and you've got no way of deriving that, whereas Newton's law of gravitation does derive that. So
you also need to explain why that figure of 9.8 meters a second is different on places like the moon or any other object where we've actually had instruments and measured it, or Mars, for example. It's definitely different.
Or even different places around the world,
Yeah, because the Earth is not one consistent thing. It's only minor changes, but it's enough to detect with our measurements. PhD Tony is another good example because that's what he does for a living. Now this one's, I don't know where, that's a horrible photo, the first one. Where's the curve? Well, I can show you the curve that's coming up. Oh, this one's from Where's Wally? Yes, thanks to Where's Wally for this one at least. I don't know if you sent me any others. Yes, different situations. This is gas expanding. This is water. And the rocket keeps going, whereas a bullet will stop. So it's not really much of a convincing argument, is it?
Well, let's say show me the curve, or let me see the curve and that. But even when you show them curving photos, they just say like GoPro or CGI. So they'll never accept anything like that anyway. So it's kind of pointless, really.
Well, you changed.
Yeah, but mine wasn't from seeing the curve. Mine was more from the geometry and realizing they didn't match a flat Earth and the angles to like Polaris and things, and how it's like 69 degrees per mile, 69 miles per degree, and realizing that matched a sphere and different things like that. It wasn't really from oh, you can see a curve. Do you know what I mean?
And if you've watched Critical Think's videos, he's done, and Wolfie as well, there's a weight change due to latitude because the centrifugal force changes as you change latitude, which is more evidence
I did try to debunk that. I was saying it was the difference in air pressures and things like that, but yeah, no, you can't even explain it like that, because even if we use a vacuum like the gravimeters and that, it doesn't work. So yeah, RDD and things are out the window basically.
Gee, if you could lose weight by standing in a vacuum, I'd be in a vacuum straight away. I'd weigh nothing. I wish that was true. This is another Flat Earth Western Samoa video, and some ideas I hadn't really encountered before. So if you've got the spotlight sun, the day is going to be, and you measure along the lines, the day is going to be different, which is interesting, which doesn't match up with reality.
Yeah, well, the whole map doesn't match up to reality, does it? I mean, we haven't even got, well,
yes.
I say we, and are we anymore, but there isn't even an accurate flat Earth map, do you know what I mean? So that should be the easiest thing to do as well.
You think that'd be a clue, wouldn't you?
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. But apparently it's not. Nobody can force me to do anything. We're talking about gravity before. Well, gravity's a law. You can't avoid it. Oh, this is similar to what one of your questions was. So people say we must go higher to see the curve, but then claim boats disappear over it. Well, yes. On a sphere, it curves in every direction. And I've got the original of this one. The curve is much more obvious because this is just a small segment of the horizon.
Well, that's like a straw man as well, isn't it? Because it's saying, people say we must go higher to see the curve. That's to see the curve. But then the second one isn't really seeing the curve. It's seeing something go over the curve, not actually
seeing the effect of the curve. Yeah. And this is just a very simple diagram which someone posted as a meme, and I think it's very simple. This explains how water sticks to a ball, basically, on using gravity. This is what flat earthers think it is. At least that's the way they talk about it. But this is the way it is in reality. It doesn't really matter where you are on the Earth. Gravity is pulling at you at 9.8 meters a second, roughly, with minor variations, wherever you are. So therefore, it doesn't really matter. The level is conforming to the liquid parts of Earth's surface.
Yeah, it's the same with the elevation argument, isn't it? If it was going over a ball down a slope, it should flow down the slope.
Yes,
but that's the elevation. Yeah.
Oh, this is the compression. So you can see this is a decent chunk of the horizon from this infinity pool. Beautiful photo. And doing a compression, and then the curve becomes much more defined. And the thing is, you've got to think of the Earth is 40,000 kilometers in circumference. So you're never going to see at surface. You're never going to see a lot of that. And so you won't see a lot of curvature, but there is some, and it is measurable, as you can see by doing this. It's very simple. Anyone can do this. You've probably seen Rory's pictures. I think this is a better one.
Yeah, I've seen some of these, like where they compress it in that. I was still arguing against that at one point, but again, that was my incredulity and biases and that. But yeah, to be honest, I wish I was in that picture right now. It looks beautiful.
Oh, yes. It's warming up here in Australia. Come and visit.
Too many bugs and spiders.
And at exactly what point does this experiment stop being true? They're basically saying water finds its level. But that's only ever at the one point. If this hose was maybe 2 kilometers long, you might see something different, wouldn't you? Or at least you'd see different
Arkanscience that actually did Arkanscience that actually did a good video for Bev Try Thinking, where they was talking about level and how it looks flat at one point, like you could use it for horizontal at one point, but then at one point it wouldn't be horizontal. He actually did a really good video on that.
I think that's it. Yep, that's it for meme roundup. So get rid of that. So that just about wraps it up, Rachie. So anything else? Any final words?
No, just thanks for having me on. It's been a nice discussion.
Well, I was going to say thanks very much for being my guest. It's been a while coming, and I'm glad we finally did it. And I hope I can have you on at some point in the future as well.
Yeah, it's been nice talking to you.
Yeah. So to the folks watching, have you seen a silly meme lately? Send it to me and I'll show it on the stream if it's fit for general consumption, of course. Contact details in the description of this video. Let me know who you'd like me to look at in the future by leaving a comment below. I appreciate all suggestions. For tomorrow, I'm back at the regular time of 2000 UTC, and I'm having my fortnightly look at Level Earth Observer with a special guest, Mr. 42. And if any of my members would like to join me sometime, let me know. Contact details in the description. I also have a Corgi video to release, but I'm having copyright music issues. So Planet Walk's going to give me some music I can use. So I'll upload that once it's sorted. Do the YouTube things, like the stream, subscribe, click join, leave a comment. I love to read your comments. In particular, if you're one of the few who watch my videos who aren't subscribed to the channel, and check that you are, please click the subscribe button below this video on your screen. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. And thank you once again, Rachi, and I think that just about does it. There's nothing left to do but cue the corgi.
You're